Wanuxi.
So the game is going to come out early 2020. We will announce a specific date later. So not now. Yeah, now is not a good time. Yep. So I always believe that one way for us to really win in a race in terms of the global market is culture. Actually, part of winning the race is to understand your own weaknesses. Japan and America has been really crazy when it comes to graphics and production value and all that. So of course we are also trying to reach that status, but at the same time we need to understand that culture is our real weapon here. I think a lot of Malaysians, they are not proud of who they are. Sometimes the word local sometimes means bad quality. Like for example, when we show the game on YouTube, a lot of the comments by Malaysians said it was cringy, but a lot of comments from overseas says they didn't mind the voice or they love the accent, in fact. So I feel that there's a lot of things that we have to offer. The problem is that we worship Japanese anime, we worship medieval culture a bit too much. So I think starting to put our culture into our games and make it relevant for the global market would be our winning strategy. We will try our best to reduce it over time, but obviously we are being tested at the moment. In Malaysia, it is very okay to crunch. People say that you must crunch. You have no choice in order to complete the game. But I always feel that sometimes, the crunch is due to the fact that the game is overscoped, So my job as a director is to ensure that we look at the game every 2 weeks via this thing called sprint. So every 2 weeks we all go into one meeting room and then we look at the game and then we see what we can add or what we can minus. And then we have to make sure that everyone understands 2 weeks, there are only 10 days times 8 hours. So within 80 hours, what can you do? Sometimes it's very hard to remove that mindset away from them. They have been taught to crunch since college, since university, and they think that it's the right thing to do. And there was a survey recently that says that Malaysia, in terms of work-life balance, is really bad. We're at the bottom quarter, if I'm not mistaken. So I really want to change that because there are a lot of countries out there that do respect work-life balance and they're doing very well. So glad, and thank you for that question. Whenever we go to all these game shows, Tokyo Game Show, E3 and all that, people always ask where's the Switch version. So I totally understand the need for the Switch version. We can consider it, but just for now, it'll be just for the PS4 and PC. Okay, so just to give you the scale of how much soundtrack we have in the game, for every boss battle, because you're fighting an EDM artist, so you have the EDM track. Some of these bosses do have a bass, like for example, when you fight the classical EDM, so we have the classical track as well, the bass track, and then we have the rock track when you're winning, when it's very obvious that the enemy is down or whatsoever. So we have 3 tracks per boss, and because of this, we actually got Falk as a music director of soundtrack, and then we even got people like James Ladino, who's in charge of the EDM. We have Funk Fiction Pishman, who's in charge of the funk part, like for example the DJ or whatever. And we have Andy Tunstall, who's in charge of the rock. We have 4 music directors, and we haven't announced some other composers as well. So there is a lot of soundtrack. I cannot mention exactly how many because we haven't counted yet, because there's just too many. Because we do receive a lot of positive feedback about the art of the game. I think one of the unusual feedback that we had this recently at China Joy, is that I feel that your game's art doesn't suit the Chinese market. It should be more anime based. Although we do value that feedback, we want to make sure that we also show our uniqueness, our identity. So hence why we chose the art, and no doubt that a lot of other people apart from that person love the art a lot. The other thing that was an interesting feedback was that I was expecting a rhythm game. He expected bars to fall down and all that, and I do appreciate the feedback, but at the same time as well, I want No Straight Roads to be open so that even action gamers can play the game. But there's a lot of music elements in the game. Without realizing, some of them are actually playing sort of unconsciously some of the elements of a music game, of a rhythm game as well. So we do take that into account as well, because I'm a big rhythm gamer. So we do have difficult modes that was not in the demo. So there will be difficult modes where you have to parry attacks based on the rhythm. So that might satisfy that person. Yeah. Of course, it depends on how you play the game, because we don't really have a new game plus per se system, but it's more towards like, when you defeat a boss, then you can actually replay the boss again in a higher difficulty, or maybe you just want to hear the EDM only or the rock only or whatsoever. So we have modes for that. Now let's say for example, if you go straight, it'll be around 5 hours, but I think with all the replayability and all that, it could easily go to even 10 hours. It's not an RPG where you have to play the entire game, then only you play at a higher difficulty. 4 hours is more like similar to racing games or Sonic, where once you clear a stage, then you can actually play the stage again at a higher difficulty. I have a lot of things to say about to Malaysian gamers. I think this is not only for Malaysian gamers, but it's for you Malaysians. I always believe that we have a lot of talent. There's a lot of amazing things that are happening right now in Malaysia. I believe that it cannot flourish further without your help. You know, rather than just saying stuff like Uncharted but like Hang Tuah, it'd be great if you can really dissect our culture very well. Look at all the depths, all the corners of our culture. Even mamak culture is our culture as well, you know. Let's see how we can gamify that and how we can celebrate that in the game industry. So I totally encourage everyone to be part of the celebration. And don't forget, in November 9th to 10th, there'll be an event called Level Up, and it'll be here at Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre. It's going to be big. It's really, I think, our first proper video game event. Do not miss it. You will see a lot of great local content, including ours, of course. We will also announce something very local that is in our game during that time as well. So please come.
想要即时获取免费游戏的消息，只要在专业的 following 里选择 See First， 并订阅我们的 YouTube 频道，打开铃铛，你就不会错过任何最新资讯啦。